Thank you for that brief introduction, Guido. As you said, this one is going to be about technology risk management, one of our core use cases that we have, and where actually our ServiceNow integration is playing a big role for at least some of our customers. We're going to have give you a glimpse idea how also additional modules in ServiceNow can help you on the journey to automate data gathering, data maintenance, even more, let's say, in a broader IT management tool ecosystem. Just for your information, it's true, I've been customer success manager for a little bit more than 2 years now. And from the beginning of next year, I'm gonna move into the role of the director for the professional services, which have been announced yesterday by Andre, also in his keynote. So what are we going to talk about in the next, let's say, approximately 30 minutes? At first, we would like to clarify, okay, technology risk management, why is that important at all? What aspects does it cover? What are the risks that we see customers are facing? Then I already gave an idea about it. To really master technology risk management, what we see is that the higher the degree of automation you actually realize, I think the better or the easier it is to do proper technology risk management. And I'll also for sure walk you through the LeanIX approach to technology risk management. And I think if I got it correctly in the last talk, I just picked up some questions that might relate to the use of surveys. To Christian, I will pick up this topic again. Also see how we can actually utilize that in regards to this use case on a very concrete example. So I would like to actually start with a quotation here, and as organizations accelerate their digital transformation, getting faster and more differentiated, many companies will actually stop updating or supporting old versions of their software, and actually exposing themselves to cyber threats, could be data breaches or something like that, system failures, which often really have a top-line effect. We know examples where point of sale system failed or assembly lines stopped. Increased costs, especially related to extended support situations with your vendors or with your suppliers that you actually run into and you haven't foreseen this. And to pick up a little bit this new business model approach also, limitations for future plannings. Say if you have services that actually rely on new technologies, the more you have to cope with old technologies and even older technologies, the harder it might get to migrate also to new technologies that enable your business models. So what are the imperatives for technology risk management, or actually to manage technology risks? It's on the one hand to establish a proper succession management for the technologies in use and being aware of obsolescence early. One factor is you want to stay compliant to ever-changing regulations, especially in the finance industry. We see a lot of regulations that actually go down to a very technical level, and we want to make sure that that those institutions can actually guarantee running services. And of course, you want to constantly modernize the growing IT environment, and there is also something to see actually the right window of opportunity to also probably not just migrate to a next version of an existing technology, but also make the jump to a new technology, which will finally end up in promoting agility and the shape of new business models, which also picks up, let's say, some organizational aspects to that. I actually hope that you can, Perfect. I think you can read those examples here that are especially like related also to costs that occur based on obsolete technologies. Yeah, and I already said like extended support costs might be just like the closest example that everybody has at hand when talking about obsolete technologies or technology that is not supported anymore. And it's just to give an idea also on how much that costs. Yeah, is this example of saying like, hey, running a PC, yeah, so a client that's running on Windows XP, it's about $700 to $800 a year. Yeah, and if you make that up, see like, okay, how big is your workforce? And if you are still running, let's say, on this old technology, this really adds up to a lot of money. And besides the other examples, this is actually why I like this use case of technology management, so technology risk management so much, because I think it's the use case where it's rather simple, yeah, to relate also to numbers, to dollars, and quantify the value of architecture management. Yeah, and as I said, that's actually why I like this use case so much. You of course have other cost factors, like probably a little bit more indirect, delayed project planning, since you have to take the stock again and again when you start. Really concrete again, cyber breaches that lead to penalties. Low performance of obsolete technologies, getting a little bit more into this direction of future limitations of your business models and not being able to deliver service to a degree that is actually expected by customers. And then finally, I also talked about that, downtime of systems, unavailability of services, also. Stuff with a direct impact, probably on the top line of your enterprise. So managing risk, technology risk, is still not a topic which is done super easy. Yeah, so there are a few complications to it. But there are also some tools that an EA has, or some levers that an EA has that you can actually pull. And let's say the complications that we actually see popping up most often with our customers, or in general, is lack of visibility into a growing or actually into a big architecture. And especially on an, let's say, technology side or technology architecture side, that might be even more complex than on an application level. Yeah? However, we see that EAs have the chance with tools like LeanIX to blend actually those information on the IT side with information that are more business architecture related, and get this visibility. Yeah, and make decisions also based on business-related artifacts. Then one thing which we are talking about pretty much all the time when we say, okay, we want to integrate with our CMDB. Yeah, it's the discussion about the right level of abstraction. Yeah, where we actually say, yes, CMDB has a purpose. It has the purpose to have all the data in very detail. So let's look at the right level of information that we need. And we often relate that to the software and hardware products that we capture in a CMDB to synchronize this one with LeanIX. Since this have a life cycle by the vendor, this is the information which is also necessary for the EA. We then often see that even though there might be transparency, the insights are actually not translated into projects. Yeah, we'll see like, okay, you have transparency, but no, so what? Yeah, so you got to do something, and actually integrate that, or also take action and get in touch with the PMOs, with the project and budgeting processes. And finally, those high costs of unmanaged technology, we plain say, okay, the EA is the spider in the web to provide those tools to get information from the tool ecosystem to actually gather that insight. So we have the best starting point to properly do technology risk management. If we'll have a quick look at let's say some kind of maturity levels, so to say, and I said it might be not easy to actually do technology risk management. We see that our customers are more successful in doing it and mastering this discipline as they move forward into this integration section or even automation of data gathering and data maintenance within their EA. So, of course, we're going to start with LeanIX being a single source of truth in early situations, having the Excel uploads probably also periodically, or working with the inline edit. But it might not be sustainable if you have to handle this big amounts of data. Second step would be, okay, you will actually utilize this, let's say, those simple workflows that we have using the survey feature, but also using the qualities, for example, that at least give you a chance to say, hey, is this data up to date? But still, we are getting into the situation where we talk to customers saying, like, hey, we can't cope with the information, with the amount of information, keeping it up to date. And that's where we actually say, like, okay, we won't get around the point where we actually integrate, in this case with our CMDB. And as you know, ServiceNow is the out-of-box CMDB integration that we have. Nevertheless, I would say this is also true for other CMDBs and their integration. Anyways, we have to rely on the data of the integrated systems, and still don't know, okay, how much is this data probably put in a manual basis, so we don't have any control of this process too. And I mean, at least we were able to get the effort from our shoulders, as the EA. But still, as we want to make the whole organization more efficient, we would even go on and say, like, okay, why couldn't we automate and look into, for the on-premise world, into services like the ServiceNow CMDB, plus additional services like the Discovery tool, which actually give you the chance to get insights in the assets and the CIs you are using in an automated way. And I place, of course, the LeanIX Cloud Native Suite just next to it, because the rationale behind it, it's pretty much the same. On the one hand, it's more on-premise related, and on the other hand, we'll want to offer you those insights also for the cloud-related world. So I'd just like to give you a very brief introduction also. And maybe a question is, who of you is using ServiceNow? It's a CMDB, so it's 2/3. I would say for the front rows, you didn't see. So it's 2/3. And are you also using Discovery? People are also using the Discovery tool. So it's just a few of them. And I'll be happy also to exchange some experience on that and how that actually works, how your experiences are. Since we heard Matthew yesterday from Campari, and he was also saying, like, okay, this is not a one-click activity. They even set up ServiceNow like greenfield again. Nevertheless, I think this topic really has great potential, and I'm happy to engage into more detailed conversation there. So I want to briefly summarize what ServiceNow Discovery actually is. So Discovery is an in an automated way, finds computers, servers, printers, and pretty much IP-enabled devices in your network, and the applications. In LeanIX speak, it would be software IT components that run on them. It then and it automatically updates then the CIs in your CMDB according to the data it actually collects. So further degree of automation. And how is it actually doing that? There are two concepts that are crucial in this regards. The first one is the horizontal discovery, and then I would even say like an additional concept, also part of ServiceNow. It's called the service mapping, which would give us another advantage. So just to walk you through, ServiceNow Discovery actually based on IP ranges and some technical implications scans your network, and just sees like, okay, there's a server. In a second step, it establishes or has a mechanism established where it classifies this device, saying like, okay, this is a Windows 2012 server, being able to figure that out, and actually identifies or maps to the existing entries in the CMDB, saying like, okay, is this entry already available? And it doesn't need an update or something like that. Or do I have to do a new entry into the CMDB? That's the identification step. And then it actually starts, let's say, the exploration between those, between the devices that, the CIs that have been found and those applications, and already making on this horizontal layer, starting to do first connections between those findings, between those CIs. That's pretty much what Discovery is doing, and discovering those devices. This additional service which actually brings a lot of strength to the use case, also in regards to LeanIX, I'll come to that in a second, is then this service mapping, which also is related to the term top-down mapping, where we, in the ServiceNow data model, we'll say like, okay, we'll have this CIs on the bottom, but come actually from the business services which are maintained in LeanIX, and find a way actually to relate those business services to the CIs that just have been found. And in LeanIX, at least that's how we currently do it in our best practice, that would pretty much be the establishment of the connection between applications and underlying IT components. So that's actually how Discovery helps us there. I just now like to walk you through the approach, how LeanIX is actually doing it. And we define to master technology risk, probably also could say to get into technology risk. We figure out that there's actually just a not too broad set of information that we actually need to start it and get first actionable insights. You can be, let's say, really focused there. And fact sheet types that are really in focus are, say, business capabilities and applications, to get the business focus. IT components, of course, including their life cycle information. Life cycle always referring to the support life cycle that a vendor actually provides you, and then also the projects, because insight actually has no value if you do not take actions. And the minimum steps required there, actually making sure that the IT components are maintained and related to the applications, something where ServiceNow integration can help us. For scoping reasons, we see that that we need to focus on certain areas in our environment. So we actually recommend to apply some sort of scoring to applications to actually see where to look at, scope the landscape accordingly, and then actually derive the projects to mitigate those obsolescence. And I'll pretty much walk you through an example from one customer who's doing that very, very successfully. There's one point. They are actually not using ServiceNow for that, but that it doesn't matter. So they are relying on their CMDB data. So the rest, besides the ServiceNow integration, is exactly done like this also in practice. So step one. What you can see here, and probably you are already familiar with it, according to the fact if you already digged into the ServiceNow integration. This is how the integration with LeanIX actually works from a conceptual perspective. So applications, we say like they are actually owned and maintained in LeanIX, and will be transferred to ServiceNow, either let's say the application table or the business services table on ServiceNow side in a first step. Second step is actually those steps I just showed you, talking about the discovery tool and how it works. We say like hardware, actually also software, is discovered on ServiceNow side. And as far as possible, automatically linked also. So the CIs are discovered. They are actually written into the what we call, or what's called the product model, the hardware and software product model on ServiceNow side, which already abstracts the data. In the product model, we are not talking about single patches or something like that anymore, but we are already talking about the products that are used. Let's say, I don't know, Microsoft SQL Server 2008 or whatever. So these are actually the tables that are of interest for us. We're going to look at those tables, synchronize those information back to LeanIX, to the according fields on the IT component level, and take also the mapping that we were able to discover on ServiceNow side and connect those IT components to the applications. So we are able to actually have a nice round trip through both tools to get this information. I'll just have some nice GIFs to show you how that works in the tool. So I'll jump on an application, well-known HR admin application, change something here. And as I jump into the ServiceNow instance, I will see the changes right away. And also, I mean, the mapping is something which needs to be done, but this is actually done in the LeanIX admin area, so something you can do on your own. So you will jump into that and actually see the changes on ServiceNow side. I think that's the first part. Yeah, exactly. Then probably also seen here one example on how the IT components are synchronized, or the information on the IT components are in sync. There was seamless integration here into your instance, and get those more detailed information also as you need it. But you will see all the you've just seen all those related CIs down there in the table. Exactly. Let me think. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty much where we think, okay, the data gathering can be strongly supported there. Okay, it's not done yet. We'll also add the lifecycle information in this case by using the Technopedia integration. So that's pretty much step one, populating the inventory with a focus on the IT components. Step two is is an interesting one. We are now looking on the applications. And as I said, we developed this, let's say, tech risk management use case together with a customer, and where we'll also have a study coming out in the near future. And they pretty much said, okay, we're gonna put some risk scores on our applications, to be able to just see like, okay, where should we look and where probably shouldn't we look, because we do not have too much resources anyways to get rid of all our obsolescence once. So we need to scope. And the scoring model is just as an example. But what they did and what we did together, also with new features, we set up. We just didn't want to send a survey and say like, hey, please fill in the technical fit of this application, because it's, I don't know, that's way too subjective. So we actually we have the scoring model in the background, and we developed a survey which pretty much represents questions that lead to certain scorings, depending on the questions, depending on the answers you give. You can actually do that within the survey power features, that you just regularly set up your questions, and you will have this calculated field sections also as standard, where you can put in little JavaScripts to score your questions and calculate a score. We now had one challenge until lately, that this score was just put on the survey section in LeanIX, and it was pretty hard to use actually. You had a workaround with Excel export, import again, and stuff like that. But what we found when we also dig deeper into Azure ourselves as a part of the migration and getting familiar with it, that Azure actually gives us an Azure function, and it's called like that, where we can directly further, let's say, manipulate or aggregate, let's say, the scores we have, and directly write it also into the fact sheet. And this actually looks like this. So you will give some answers, the values are calculated in the background, and we are now able to just write these values directly into the fact sheet to make them visible, to act on those values. This customer chose to really have values. We could also translate that into criticalities. As I said, like no criticality until high severity, as you have seen in the slide before. Plus, and this is, since this use case is also regulatory driven, I have to say, like timestamps and is the IT risk survey finished, this will all be populated manually. And it's actually the benefit there. The simplest benefit was we were able to even save the people over there a lot of time, to get those things into a tool. Besides the benefits of mitigating, or being able to prioritize to mitigate obsolete technology. How does it look like? And I hope it's not too fast, but that you just get a glimpse. I'm here on this fact sheet. The scores are all set to 0. And I'll just start the survey. You will send it out to anybody who's subscribed to one of your fact sheets. Walk through it, randomly click something. Optional question, something more is popping up. I finalize it, and I just jump back to the fact sheet. And I see how actually those values are directly populated there. So yes, has been answered. Okay, you see I prepared this last week, and actually data has been filled in. I think this is incredibly powerful, because especially for those questions we are aware that you have a lot of own methodology and ratings and scorings, etc. At place in your companies. We see that being done often in Excel, yeah. And I think we just added some really good additional intelligence there to keep it in the tool, make your life easier, utilize this information directly in LeanIX without changing the media. So what's then able, and we made it a little bit easier here, is to say like, okay, I'm going to have a regular view on my application portfolio, and you'll already see like, okay, I just want to highlight those dark green applications first, yeah, because they seem to be more critical. With my given resources, I should do those, yeah, and I filter for them quite easy. Yeah, I now just see the green ones. Plus, I was able to, or I changed the view. Some of you might know there's something built in like the technology risk view. It still shows your application landscape, yeah? But it takes into account the lifecycle information that is actually that's actually part of the related IT components. So what this report pretty much says, hey, this red application here is related to an IT component that is no longer in vendor support. Yeah, so it's unsupported. Probably it's in extended support or whatever. Yeah, but it's not in mainstream support for sure. Yeah, so that gives you another hint, and you'd be able to just drill down into it. Yeah, and see like, okay, at least you have a starting point saying like, this is what we should really look at. Yeah, having starting point to drill into it. I don't have a slide regarding the Explorer function. Yeah, the Explorer functionality which has been introduced, but I think this will also make it easier to really see like, okay, which is the IT component that is giving me this red color? Which is the IT component that went out of vendor support? The customer, which we actually with whom we actually developed that, choose a slightly different approach. We set up an custom report on that. The first part of this custom report looks like this. I'll just briefly explain the general structure. Like on the left top side, and they are really in conversation with their top management. I said it's a regulatory point. They have to get rid of their obsolete technology. Yeah? They have to prove it to auditors, revision, etc. So you will see on the top left side the number of your applications either being supported, green, being not supported anymore, or in orange or gray some additional status. We'll come to that in a second. On the right side, you see the same for IT components. They made their life easy. They just said, okay, we just want to know about OS and database. Yeah? The others, we just put them into the product category. Yeah? And then what's really, really powerful and what's actually adding the value to this report, they have this time picker there. So they have a planning cycle of 18 months, I think, where they want to look into the future. And they say like, okay, show me the development over the next year in this phase. And they'll see like on the left side, for example, it's the orange part of the pie chart saying like, okay, how many applications will be affected by obsolescence at the end of the time frame I just selected? And no good news. 300 more applications are going to be affected. Something big might go end of life. And they said, okay, we also want to make sure if we addressed something already in projects, we also want to have that. Want to have that marked. That's the gray area. And now finally, like downstairs on the bottom of this chart, you see where also a lot of value is in. I said they have an 18-month planning cycle, and they want to look into the future. And for example, for January 2020, yeah, they see, okay, there's some kind of peak. What is that? Yeah, and they see, okay, there are just a couple of products, 4, 5, 6 products getting end of life. And it's actually a Windows Server 2008, and Microsoft is actually shutting down the mainstream support for those Windows servers. And it's already a huge amount of applications which are affected by that. And this is the logic, how they actually then really deep dive into this topic and say like, okay, we want to plan early. We want to know that 18 months in advance to get in touch with the PMOs, yeah, and have a closer look at the whole environment, let's say, which is of course necessary. They want to get their budgeting processes running, yeah, since big migrations might come up. Or they say, and this is especially true for Windows 2008, since Microsoft, I mean, has the idea also to push you or push us into the cloud. Say like, okay, that might be a good window of opportunity to actually switch to Microsoft Azure for applications or for parts of my architecture where it makes sense. Yeah, Microsoft is smart on that. At the moment, they are offering good services also to move into the cloud. So if you have the chance, you might just want to do that. And that's, I think, a very smart approach that this customer chose. They really got it running. They really reap the benefits right now with that. And to me, it is really the best or most successful use case I've seen in regards to technology management, really from end to end there. To just give you a glimpse also about the report and what might also come up, hopefully in the product soon. I'm going to push for that, and feel free to approach product for that. It's a little bit more detailed view. What you will see here, it's just again a plain list on the left side about all the applications and some meta information on that. On the right side, all the software products, what they call it, or IT components on the right side. And you can actually use this report to see those relationships, saying like, okay, which IT component or software product relates to which applications. In this case, it's not always a point-to-point relationship, but goes via different hops. That's why we currently can't utilize the existing reports, but the fact sheet explorer. And you'll get to views like this, yeah, saying like, hey, this BPM application is of importance for me. I want to dive into that. What are the technologies that are actually that I need to take care of? It's those 4 technologies, and I see this Oracle component went end of life. I want to exchange it, yeah, on one hand, and that's the top-down approach. On the other hand, I don't show it in the slides, but on the other hand, it gives me directly the chance to say like, okay, what's the bottom-up effect again? If I change these technologies, what are other applications that are related to that? And that's actually, let's say, the second step that they also take when it actually gets a little bit more into project planning on a bigger scale. All right. If we would have like 3 takeaways that we take also for technology risk management with LeanIX, or that we can also give to you, we would say like, be aware to switch to new technologies before it's too late, yeah, and thus foresee that that technologies are going to run out of support in a certain period of time. As you are in more highly regulated industries, you might want to also stay compliant. Yeah, the regulators I think they find the IT topic more and more interesting. That's at least what I hear from you. And as I said, yeah, it's a great way to save costs on the one hand, also to quantify the the value of LeanIX, saying like, okay, you were able to save extended support costs, or you were able to save costs from from the need not to take some internal actions to actually secure your environments by other measures. So that's the takeaways I would like you to take with you into the lunch break. I'm happy to answer some questions here or also in the lunch break, and actually say thank you for your patience, and have a great day. Enjoy the conference.